mushrooms.
Yeah, I'm not gonna make it, bro. And then you got to hunt. Like, but that's why I think it's so important. Like, I was listening to this one podcast, and this dude was talking about this, how he was growing up in like Christian, and like they didn't have like, their hands didn't look dirty. And that's not the type of man he wanted to be. But he still wanted to be a Christian man. So like he started like some like camp or something where it's like survival training, and he's taking like jujitsu classes, and like he's starting to work on cars, and like all of this didn't start for him until his 30s. So like when he was younger, he was like an athlete and doing all this other stuff, but he didn't really learn for him what it takes to be a man until later. And I'm like, bro, that's something like I think a lot of us need, like that survival training, like just being able to know what fruits or vegetables and stuff out there that we can go and pick and actually survive off of. Like, how do you hunt and track down prey?
Yeah, there's so many people who think having knowledge is lame until it's actually needed.
There's so many people who think being masculine is so toxic until they need it.
Until they...
Oh, that's so toxic.
Bruh.
That toxic. But we appreciate y'all for joining us for another podcast of The Bros Next Door.
Yes, sir.
I'm your boy, official David O'Neal.
LB.
It's Malik.
And we're here to, do the things. We're here to talk about subjects that are easily conversed about in comfortable spaces. So we're here to make this comfortable space that we all could talk about the things that, I don't know, random stuff. I guess it seems to be real random today because I don't know why Malik is holding this fish tank on his lap.
Today, we are going to be doing fishbowl questions. So we got this big random fishbowl.
Hold it up a little bit more so they can see. Why do you have this big random fish tank?
So we got a couple questions that we just randomly chose so you guys get to know us a little bit better. And we're going to ask each other questions.
Absolutely. These are definitely random. As y'all can see, this is a large tank. We will be filling this up over the course of the podcast with a bunch of suggestions from you all, things that we think about during the weeks and during time. And as we just fill it up, when it comes down to our fishbowl conversation episodes, we're just going to pick and talk. We're not going to come in here with a specific agenda. We're going to see what God does when we put our hands in here and pick something out. So, y'all ready to get started?
Some good questions in there, some stupid things, you know what I'm saying? Just
some wild stuff in here.
I see.
I wrote some of these questions, and these is wild. So who want to pick the first question? Who wants to pick the first question out?
Pick the first one.
Yes, sir.
Let's see. How do you handle forgiveness with someone who's wronged you several times?
Ooh, can I go first? Can I answer this one, y'all mind?
Yeah, you go ahead.
All right, so I think there's two ways to look at this. All right, I'm gonna start with the way we're supposed to handle it based upon, if y'all watched tuned in to episode 1, y'all know we are all Christians. So as Christians and men of faith, we're just supposed to forgive. Like regardless, we're not supposed to keep track. We're not supposed to count how many times and none of that. We're just supposed to forgive. I think in the Bible it says 7 times, 70 times a day. If you do the math, 7 times, 70 times a day is going to be like 490 times. And that's the same sin. Like that's the same sin. That's not counting different sins, but someone can sin against you 7 times, 70 times a day. But the idea is that we just forgive a multitude. Now, but if you ask me, I'm going to create some distance. If you wrong me multiple times on a multitude of times, my objective is to love you from afar. Like you can't do the same thing to me. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, that's shame on me. And then if I give you those 2 times, we're going to be at a distance from this point forward. And you're not going to have the proximity or the right to be that close to hurt me again. Because if I'm forgiving you, that means I had to be hurt by it. I had to be hurt if I'm forgiving you. So I'm not going to give you the proximity to hurt me again until I know for 100% fact that you've changed your ways and you're not that same person. Otherwise, check up the deuces. I love you from afar. Don't call my phone, but you can send snail mail.
I feel you on that. I think forgiveness is important, regardless of who you are. You're going to come across something that's, sometimes you need forgiveness for something that you've done. I think for myself, I try to pray on things, especially if I don't like something that either I did or somebody else did. I'm going to let it go, but I'm going to learn from it. Mm-hmm. Learning from it is the most important part of it, because mistakes happen in life. But if you do something, if someone's doing something continuous, I gotta create distance.
They don't. There've been times, huh? They don't care about you, bro.
Yeah, a lot of people. There's a lot of people who are so-called friends who do things to you, and then when you finally check them, it's like, yo, man, I don't really like that. And then you have to create distance. You got to create barriers and stuff. I think as an adult, I've learned this more. I've acted on this more than when I was a kid. Mm-hmm. As a kid, I was like, everybody wants to be my friend. As an adult, I'm like, I'd rather have a small circle of people that I hang out with a lot, because these are the people who are really there and who will ride for me. Like, you can't have going. I think, what is it? To go somewhere, it's faster to go by yourself. Mm-hmm. To go far, go together.
Yes.
I don't need to go nowhere with people who are bad company.
Bingo.
It'll just pull me back. So I don't need, bad people, but I will forgive. It's in our today's time, I feel like there's too many people who are too quick to cut somebody off, because you can get to anyone and like access to anybody super fast on the internet. So, forgive people, move forward. If you can get past it, get past it. If you can't, try to seek forgiveness. If not, keep it moving.
I'm going to let you go, but I definitely want to respond to that cutting people off quick.
Okay, so rephrase the original question for me again, just to make sure I understand the full concept of what you're asking me, what's going on.
All right. How do you handle forgiveness with someone who has wronged you multiple times?
Okay, well, I think that's fairly simple. I mean, you forgive them. The deeper question is, how many times is multiple times? Because now that requires a different conversation. Okay. But I think the most you can wrong me is twice. Honestly, that's probably the most you got. A lot of people kind of only got once, depending on what the wrong was and what the walk was in life. Of okay, I don't have a problem forgiving people or forgetting about it or anything like that. It's real crazy that people can't forgive and forget, and then the stuff that they actually want you to forgive and forget. We can definitely get into that later, but it's crazy.
I think forgiving or forgetting is a interesting phrase, because you're not supposed to forget, but it's to let go. Like I want to let go of the issue because it no longer holds any power over me. Mm-hmm. When you just forget, it can still happen, and that's why history is important. You don't forget history. You need to learn it, accept what it is, and then move forward. And how can you change it? But if you forget it, it's going to happen again.
Well, I feel like that's one of those many weird phrases that, we use and stuff like we said. I'm not sure if we already mentioned in the webisode or not yet, but Southern hospitality. Well, I feel like that's just one of those weird things that people use, and it's not fully accurate for what life is. Like, honestly, I don't fully all the time say gesundheit or bless you when my wife sneezes, because I feel like that comes from a predated thing.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's just one thing on the list of things that
I'm gonna say bless you if you sneeze.
I still say bless you, but I definitely do believe it comes from a period of time, if I'm not mistaken, during the Black Plague in Europe, where sneezing, they thought your soul was leaving your body and you were about to hit the ground.
Go back in this body, please. Bless you.
Bless you. Like I said. So yeah, I definitely understand. But I think in this era of mental health awakening and safe self-love and self-care and all that, people use it as an excuse to separate from and cut people off. Because you don't want to go through the process of healing, you don't want to go through the process of your own mental growth and things of that nature. I think we take this, oh, you've wronged me, so for self-love and for my mental health, I'm going to cut you off. Okay. you may have been wrong, but I've seen also people use it just because they disagree with someone.
Oh, I was just about.
I've seen people use this this mental health, this mental health thing. I'm protecting my mental health because people don't agree with where they stand in life, and they say you've wronged me because you don't agree with me. I don't have to agree with you to love you. I don't have to agree with you to want better for you. But that doesn't mean I'm wrong in my thoughts. And that doesn't mean like we need to be distant. But I think a lot of times people are now trying, in this day and age, I think people are trying to surround themselves with yes men or yes women. So that their concepts, their ideas, their perspectives are validated rather than just living and saying, you know what, I can be different. I can have my own thoughts. And everybody's not going to agree, but that doesn't make me or anybody else less than anything. Yeah. We're all on the same exact x-axis. We're all on the same point along the x-axis. Guess what? The only person that's vertically higher than me is God. Everybody else, you are on the same x-axis as me. You just may be further along this x-axis because you got more money, you might have more resources, whatever. But we're all the same. So why are we cutting people off because they disagree? Why are we cutting people off because they still got to grow? Like, we just met. Like, honestly, we just met almost a year ago. Almost a year ago now.
The wedding.
And so if like we doing this together and you say something I don't like and I feel like it wrongs me or I feel like you disagree with me, if I cut you off and I never talk to you, I also never give you the space to grow. I never give you the space to learn and understand, like, this is somebody else's perspective. Like we had the first episode, the dreadlock, when you asked me the dreadlock and the lock conversation, it's like, I could be really offended. You call me dreads and I just walk out and it's like, but I never gave you the chance to learn why is that offensive. If I cut every white person off before they understand that you can't say the N-word and I don't give them the historical context, like I never give you a chance to grow. And I think that's in my head, that's where like this forgiveness, this forgive and forget, all this cutting people off, like that's when they're taking it too far. You're just cutting people off because you can and not because you should.
I think sometimes it is exhausting to explain yourself to every person.
Okay. Yeah.
Explaining yourself, like I had a conversation with my friends, like, oh man, I feel like I need to explain to my wife every single question. Mm-hmm. Right. And that's a whole different thing. But I understood what he was saying. Or saying like, I'm exhausted trying to constantly explain what it is that I'm doing. Trust me. Trust what it is. But I think it's exhausting from like, if you had to defend who you are as a person to everyone, it's exhausting. When you're the token black person and with a bunch of people who are in different races, it's exhausting.
Very.
So you work in a field where you're the only one. AV, I'm probably like it's plenty of times, and we're in Atlanta, one of the biggest black markets. Sometimes we'll still be the only black people on the entire set, and it'll be 40 people. It doesn't always happen, but it does happen a lot.
Yeah.
But it can be exhausting. But not to go down that whole route. Who wants to answer the next question?
I'll take a shot at it.
Just hand him one so he could.
Okay, so he can do his thing. Just look. We gotta get a lot more questions up in this bad boy too.
Yeah, so we
gotta start swimming in here with these questions. So we need y'all help. We need y'all to send us questions, send us things y'all want to hear us talk about, debate about, whatever. So we can put them in the fishbowl.
So is this a question I ask y'all? Or this is a question I answer.
We all gonna answer it.
Oh, okay. As a kid, what was your go-to struggle meal?
I already told y'all this when I was writing this one down. I told y'all.
Lamar, you go ahead.
Man, I already told you my go-to struggle meal as a kid. And I say kid because my grandma taught me how to start cooking a relative.
You didn't throw it back in there, right?
That's right. Relatively early. So I started cooking noodles, ramen noodles on the stove. And then I would cook noodles and then hot dogs. So I'll put the hot dogs in one pot. I'll put the noodles in the other pot. And then when my hot dogs were done, I'll throw some cheese on my hot dog, throw a little bit of cheese in the noodles. And that was my meal. That was my go-to struggle meal. I didn't like sitting over the stove long. And it took about 5 to 7 minutes for them noodles to cook and them hot dogs to boil. And I was good.
Bologna, fried bologna.
Ooh, that's a good one.
That was it. Fried bologna
that
sandwich.
Was breakfast. That was definitely breakfast.
See, like
They gonna look at you like, bro, I don't know who ate it.
I don't know who ate it, but it wasn't me.
But you ain't answered the question. What's your
I
struggle
was
meal?
just about to say that. So to answer the question real quick, I probably will go to a fried bologna sandwich or some toasted bread, put some chips on it.
Okay.
Goddamn.
I like, yes, okay.
The chips was...
The chips added to the sandwich was almost like a go-to guaranteed if I had any type of like
I was
ham
living
sandwich.
luxurious then. Nigga, chips on the sandwich. Let them be flavored chips too.
The Doritos or the Cheetos on my sandwich. I got one.
Oh, you got one?
Yeah, I got one. So, all right. Whew. All right. So this is, do you believe in destiny or fate or taking things into your own hands?
I believe in taking things into your own. I think there are certain things that are destined to happen, certain life events that will always happen, right? You're going to lose people in your life.
Mhm.
Certain things are going to happen. However, how you respond to adversity is always up to you.
Yes.
Because when the house is on fire, are you coming in just screaming, or are you are you getting the fuck out of there? Are you stuck in the house, or are you getting out?
I've literally been on fire in real life. So
For real?
yeah, I've literally been on fire in real life. So we gonna be real calm because I understand how to navigate that space now. We're gonna be real calm about it.
Yeah.
Stop, drop, and roll. I ain't panicking.
Like going through adversity is important in life. So you got to go through you got to figure out what it is that you want and go get it. Because sometimes happenstance, you can just walk into something. However, it doesn't always work out that way. Many times.
Nah, you're not gonna just walk into an NBA contract. Unfortunately, not.
No,
You have to take that.
not unless you somebody's son. But even then, like Dwayne Wade's son,
that man stuck in the G League, ain't it?
Yep, stuck. And he's not a bad basketball player.
Not at all.
Probably he will beat anybody one-on-one. He probably beat some bench players in the NBA, but to get in the NBA, he has to work.
Right, hard. What about you?
I would probably say I believe in all of it at the same time. Like
You're stealing my answer.
You said what?
You're stealing my answer.
So yeah, I would probably say I believe in all of it at the same time because life is, I don't know, I feel like it digs into a deeper question now, which I forgot what I was looking at. I was looking at like flat earth stuff not too long ago, and they was bringing in, some real science stuff from other experiences. I always take a listen on everything, what everybody has to say, just to see if it holds any merit, because technically we go based off of science, or we go based off of fact, and fact is based off of science. And science is based off of pretty much a real good hunch in a lot of cases, in which it changes. It proves to be something different from what we hunched later on in history. So then again, what is fact? So that's my answer, I guess.
All right. If y'all were confused as I am, I hope y'all aren't as confused as I am. But for me, I think I'm going to say both and. I do believe in destiny / fate, and I also believe in taking things to my own hand. I believe that for me, God has written out a life for all of us. He has a life that planned for all of us, but it's up to us to kind of fall into that will, to fall into that plan. So just like Adam and Eve, just using that as an example, I don't think his plan was for Adam and Eve to ever eat that fruit off the tree, the fruit of the tree of good and knowledge of good and evil. Sorry. Whew.
Yeah.
So I don't think that was ever his plan, but they took their destiny and their fate into their own hands to do so. So I think we all come into these situations where we have that opportunity where it's like God is giving us a decision. He's like, this is the decision I want you to make. This is the decision I told you to make. This is the decision I've given you the signs to make. But at the end of the day, you're going to make your own decision because I've given you that free will. Mm-hmm. So for our lives, like I do believe we have to take into our own hands changing our circumstances. If I don't like the fact that my bank account is negative, I can't just sit on my hands and pray and hope fate and destiny turns out that, oh, God's going to drop $1 million in my bank account. Mm-hmm. Don't work that way. I got to get up and do something. Now, the thing is, once I produce that faith and start to do the work, guess what happens? Things will change. So like for me, I think you do have to kind of live simultaneously with both, understanding, like you said, there are some things that are inevitable, but if we want to get to certain places, we got to do the work.
Canon events, Spider-Man. I don't know if y'all seen y'all know David Goggins?
David Goggins, yes.
Did you hear what he said about, he was like, He's like, I have this fear if I die, I'm gonna see God, and God's gonna say, "Come here, David. Here are all the things that you could have been, but you decided to be this overweight, 360-pound
And
man."
he changed his life.
And he changed his life.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
thought that was
didn't hear
really-
that quite story, but I've definitely heard his story about being overweight and all that. But that's
Yeah.
Real quick before we pull that one, what would y'all do if like you had a moment to just meet God? Like if you just had a moment to just meet God, and he give you like 5 minutes, what's that going to be like for you?
For me, shoot, I would have so many questions, but I think I would be, I'd be too in awe, right? I'd be in too much of an awe to ask anything, really, because I'd be appreciative.
Mm-hmm.
How often, like the whole purpose of life is to give thanks and praise, but then we still have to live and learn with everything else.
Facts.
We got to.
Like, what is it that you believe is necessary for me to know? Because I might have a million questions, but God is like, your questions don't matter because this is what I want you to know. This is where I want you to go. This is what I want you to do. And if he can tell me that, when I leave that conversation, I got all I need to move forward in life.
See, you wrong. I feel like he would already know what you would want to ask, and he'll already be set up for that to be answered before you will even ask. So that will already void your question, and you would sit there for the other 3 minutes silent, just like you was for the last 2 minutes. I feel like that would be everybody's experience, and you would just come back feeling
Loved.
like, yeah,
Just feeling love.
Well, I would want to ask y'all who put a blank piece of paper. That was
It
fun.
got to be him.
That was photographed.
I guess that's the question. I guess everything is possible.
Any and everything is possible. I love it.
All right, this one says, "What is the worst punishment you have ever had?"
Ooh.
To have to grow up and get a job and work to just live and pay bills and pay on taxes that'll never affect me in any type of way.
That is exactly the worst punishment I think anybody. Like, I grew up from not having no bills and no responsibilities to now I got to do all this.
And I was still broke then, and I'm broke now, but for some reason now it's worse.
What's the worst? man. All right, so this one time, right?
Mm-hmm.
My brother was smoking in the backyard. Right? So being a young little brother, now I'm number 6, he's number 5. I see him in the backyard, and I was like, "Yo,
smoking weed or smoking cigarettes?
Smoking weed."
Ooh,
I was like, we were like,
kite.
I think he was 15, I was 13. Or no, I was 12.
He was getting high.
I was 12, he was 14. So I see him smoking with his friend Cliff Wood.
He's putting people out
Cliff
here.
Wood. I see him.
I feel like
was
something
like,
wrong
bro.
with the story already for a nigga named to be Cliff Wood.
Cliff Wood.
And then he the nigga with the smokes. He was sent by the simulation. It's all a
So
simulation.
this nigga smoking with my brother. I run up to him. I said, "Yo, don't be smoking, right?" He said, "I'm gonna do what I want. I'm your older brother." So
damn
I
right.
said, "No, you not," and I just punched him. And now, mind you, my brother is much faster than me, much better athlete than me, and I think at this time we're about the same height. I punched him, and I hit him as hard as I could.
And he didn't budge.
He didn't move. He didn't move.
You know,
So
He punched me so fast. And this is this is right when I started boxing. He was beating the shit out of me. And I was like, "Oh, fuck, this isn't good." Right? This isn't good. I'm in a bad situation. I hit him with a bucket. Right? Still didn't go right.
get thrashed.
Yep. He beat my ass. So we get home. My mom gets home right after this. And she's like, "What was y'all fighting for?" I said, "Yo, he was smoking." Oh. And now, there's a rule, you don't snitch. Of course not.
I'm about to say,
bro-
and you
And
snitched.
then you snitched.
God
Right?
damn.
Right? So
Somebody
I'm over here. I done fucked up. My mom's like, "I got it out your systems. Y'all fought?" Okay, all right, cool. I was like, "Yo, hell no, he just beat my ass. You ain't about to let this go." She beat my ass right after that. Because
For
I was sitting
snitching.
there. No, not for snitching, because I was cursing and I was yelling.
Uh,
And she was like, "Nigga, are you out your
are you
mind?"
mind? Who you talking to?
So I got an ass whooping. Then I got an ass whooping again. And then I had to sit, we had bunk beds. So I was just on the top bunk, just up there crying. Like,
Bro, you got beat by your brother and then your mom. That had to be one of the worst days of your
that was pretty
I'm
bad.
waiting for the second part of the story because he must be a good brother because it sounded like I'm still missing the third ass whooping that you were supposed to have coming.
Oh, no, there was only 2.
It's
only
Nah, you snitched. So now another one.
it definitely was a third one.
No, there was
It
no
definitely
third
was
one.
supposed to be a third
That
one.
was actually the last time we ever fought.
Oh man.
We sparred a few times, like in boxing, but
Nah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that was the worst ass whooping he's ever given me, and that was the last ass whooping he's ever given me.
Nah, I would have had to make it absolute. You snitched on me. You ain't learned that. Evidently, you didn't learn your lesson
As a
from the
kid-
ass whooping
So now you
that
got
I just gave you.
So now you got another one.
I thought I was doing
So
the
I
right
have to
thing.
refresh
I thought
your memory.
I thought I was doing the right thing. Look,
It's okay.
you can't be doing drugs.
It's always the righteous people. Burn her.
Always.
Witch.
But so to this day, he has this ring around his nose. And I'd be like, "Dang, bro, how you get that?" He'd be like, "Shut up."
Because of the bucket.
Because of the bucket.
Oh man.
Mind you, my eye was all swollen. I was like, "Damn, how you gonna?"
Think me like I'm
Oh,
your
yeah.
brother, and
Yeah.
man,
He was much faster. Man,
I think for me the worst punishment I can remember. It's kind of crazy. The only one that I really remember that was a whooping was involved was the worst one. My mom beat me with like a metal studded belt. So this is when we was living, I was living in Maryland, we was in the neighborhood, and my mom was very popular. Like my mom was always a popular person. No matter where she lived at, no matter where she was always pretty popular. So, and because my mom had 4 kids, people always enjoyed like bringing their kids to my mom. So it's like, you have a bunch of kids, you know how to raise kids, it's going to be a good time. So, the adults are like downstairs. It's me, my siblings, and neighborhood kids all upstairs. And at first, like it all started as like this karate thing. Like we were all like we put out the blanket, and the blanket was like the mat. And we did karate fights on the mat. So that's where it started. At some point, somehow, I ended up under the blanket with a girl. Like me and a girl are under the blanket together. At some point, somehow, I don't remember exactly how we got there.
Nigga, how we go from karate fights to...
Exactly. Somehow, some point through
wax
all
on,
of
wax
this,
off.
through all of this, like I end up under the blanket with a girl. Nothing actually happens. But I have little siblings.
He's not a closer.
Oh man, that's how you feel? That's how you feel?
Nothing happened. Nothing.
Nothing
We started out doing karate.
And
Then
we under the blanket.
we ended up under the blanket butt naked, but then
Whoa.
nothing.
Well, I didn't say we were butt naked now. But no, so like we're under the blanket or whatever, and like we get out of the moment. But my siblings are my siblings, you know. I was the oldest. So guess what? I had a little brother and a little sister. Somebody ran their mouth and told my mom Lamar was under the blanket with a girl.
Don't look my way. Don't look my way.
Like, I need people to stop snitching. So what happens is my mom was like, oh, what? You was doing what? Like, don't even get the full story, like what we was doing if nothing was going on. Just, you under the blanket with a little girl in the dark. So like, this is a problem. This is a problem. So she grabs me. She goes next door to where the girl's staying. Because like the girl was like a next door neighbor or whatever. So we go over there. My mom and her aunt were friends. So, you know, they get to talking and say, hey, is something over here? Oh, yeah, what's going on? She was under the blanket with my son and they was da-da-da-da-da. Girl's upstairs. She already got in trouble for something else. I have no idea what else she got in trouble for since she been home. You did that and you just got there. I'm like, oh, you about to get your behind whooped, right? Mom takes me back home. I'm immediately, I already know what's coming.
Nothing's worse than the pre-ass whooping.
It's the build-up, bro. So she go in the closet. She prays in her room and she's asking me questions. And she goes in the closet and she grabs the belt and she go to work. I promise, I think that was the worst whooping in my life.
Mm-hmm.
I was the worst whooping I've ever got. And that might have been one of the last whoopings I got because I think soon after that point, it became, I'm not going to whoop you anymore. Because I think during that whooping, I grabbed the belt. Like, I grabbed the belt.
You're going to have to stop.
You're like, this is not okay. Yeah. Like, no. And so, like, yeah, that was one of the last whoopings I got because after that, my mom said, oh, bet. You feel like you grown now? So now I'm going to start caving your chest in. And like that became a new punishment, just like wham! Every time I was in trouble, just hitting, like people like. And I remember growing up, like, oh, you got a nice little chest. I'm like, because I get punched in it for a regular. But yeah, man, under the blanket with a little girl, nothing happened. Kids being kids, that was probably my worst punishment.
So
context, he said he was under the blanket as a kid with
a kid. I was under the blanket. As a child, I was like 7. I was like 7, 8 years old. Because this is on my way right before I moved to South Carolina. So I was like 7, 8 years old. On my way out the neighborhood and everything. But yeah, little kids don't do that. Parents don't like that. I found out the hard way.
Moral of the story: women are women's worst enemies. Because his mother wasn't okay with just him getting in trouble. She said, "You know what?
I'm gonna go get the girl.
Let me go get this little bitch and let me go get this little bitch next door."
I didn't even think about that.
I could just sit here and punish my son.
Like moms could just let me have that one by myself.
I could just whoop my son and tell him, and then just politely tell her she can't come over for a little while or something. But no, I'm about to go let the little girl get in trouble. And then I'm gonna let the mama know that her daughter is a hoe.
A phone call would have sufficed.
No, we got to walk over there.
I gotta see the pain in her eyes when I tell her mama, and her mama look at her. I gotta see that whole transaction.
Y'all wanna know what's even crazier? Her older brother was in there with us.
And what? So where was the brother at when your mama came and snitched?
At the top of the stairs. And he looked at
shit.
No.
This ain't got nothing to do with me. I was there. I didn't think.
He was like, we was playing karate. That's exactly like I had fought her older brother and like, come on. At mom.
Yeah, but when you a kid and my whole mama next door then came and brought it.
You ain't saying nothing.
Bro, this ain't got nothing to do with me.
Her brother was in there with us. We didn't do nothing, man. It was crazy. It was wild. It was a wild time.
It's goddamn women.
You got a question, David?
I do, goddamn women. Why do women do stuff like that? That's my question. But no, I got a fish tank question too. Let me see. What do you think divides the black community the least? No, it says the most. What do you think? What do you think? What do you think divides the black community the most?
I already know.
So we can pause.
You said you already
know.
Oh, go ahead.
The LGBTQIA community.
You think the LGBTQIA RSP community?
Not that community, but the divide between LGBTQIA plus, and heterosexual men. Right?
Could you explain how does that divide the whole black community?
Okay, I'll put it to you like this. A lot of times we like to say women like have gay best friends, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, so now as a heterosexual male, if you have that toxic masculinity trait or you don't really agree with homosexuality or whatever the case may be, black women who like black men are going to side with the homosexual males, right? So now like that creates a schism and divide. And even if you like scroll through social media, black men are more so attacked if we don't agree, don't like, and we're always the perpetrators or we're the ones who seem to be more offensive or offending that community. So like, I think that the relationship between heterosexual black men and the relationship between the LGBTQIA plus community creates a divide because now people have to pick sides.
Now you're just talking about the black ABCDFG community? Or are you talking about...
I literally took my time to give them letters. It's too many letters for you.
I ran through it fast in my head and I just knew I was going to I'm not trying to offend nobody. I just knew I was going to fuck it up. I saw it coming. I saw somebody running and then I saw them just going like...
It's all good, man. It's all good. The LGBTQ plus.
Now, you talk about the black LGBTQ plus, or are you talking about all LGBTQ plus? This seems like that's a very broad.
I'm talking about black. So like within our community, I think that's a division point. I think that's just a huge point of contention and division. Now I don't think it's as bad as it once was. I do not believe like it's as bad as it once was. I do believe we're growing slowly but surely, but I do believe that's still like the biggest divide. Because that adds into other things. I think that feeds into other divides.
So would you say it's coming, matter of fact, would you say this is coming out of something that's more of a broad word? Do you think that could be a social order or something that this group maybe displays the most of, but it's an overall from everybody type thing from like I said, a social order?
And are you saying like, is it present in other communities, like the white community, the Asian community, stuff like that? Or
is it overall present? Because we're still talking about affecting the black community the most, and you're talking about how this rift between these two groups.
Yeah, I do. I believe it's a world issue. No, I don't believe it's just a black issue. I do believe it's a world issue. However, I think with the history of blackness, especially blackness in America, and then you think about black slavery and all that, adding all these other contexts, I believe it's a huge division, that piece, because in slavery, they broke down the black household. They ensured that black women would not respect black men because I'm the master. He can't do nothing for you, right? Like that division, and then, trickle it down to, I want to say the term is like Batsy Boy or something, where they were sodomized. They sodomized black men. They took strong black men and sodomized them. All, so I think adding all these contexts to it, it adds a division between these two groups. Because and especially when we talk about like what you be saying, toxic masculinity, right? I see this homosexual man as less than because he's homosexual. Like that's a problem. Because now I'm looking at you as less than. And because you feel less than, that's going to cause a schism between us. And now we have the conversations about masculinity. And now those conversations about masculinity lead down to the conversation about what is a man. And then that leads into the conversation about how does a man show himself in the household and the gender norms. Like, I think that rift, if we could care less about, like, let's be real, I don't think any of us have a problem with that, with the LGBTQ plus community. However, because it's like seen a world, like in our community a lot of black men, especially I remember like being in college and like right before college, it was the worst thing in the world for you to come out as gay. Like it was like one of the worst things in the world. Like people in my family, it caused some issues.
Yeah.
So I think that rift right there adds into any other divisions that may be present. And that's just my opinion. I could be wrong, but I do believe like that rift between
I don't
men and that community.
I don't think it's the worst. I do think it's I do think it is a problem. But I do think there are several things. It's a multi-layered issue, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so which would you consider to be
I would say
the most?
I would say probably the father being not an essential figure, right? The way that we look at black fathers, not we, because that's not the case for me, but the way that society depicts black fathers, right? Like, deadbeat dads is a common thing, right? But this is learned behavior. This is things that's happened over time. You know, slaves, they were like, if you were married, first marriage was not allowed, but then if you were married, you still belong to this master. And then whatever the master told you to do, whether they told the woman to have sex with another slave to procreate or whatever, they did it. So then you have men who just like left this woman who's had a baby with another person. And this is years and years. Now, up until the 70s, black communities still were held together. Like they were still very, very tight. I'd say the 60s going to early 70s. Come the 70s, like mid 70s, that completely changed.
Integration was probably one of the worst things that could have happened to us.
Second,
I've heard integration is probably one of the worst things that could have happened.
I wouldn't say it's integration. There were certain welfare was one of those issues.
Yes,
welfare is one of the things that made it to where all women benefited, families benefited by not having a man in the house. And it's, statistically, there's not an abundant amount of black people that are on welfare. However, it also made us like, oh, well, we don't need you. We can get somebody else. But it was the media that also depicted black men as not necessary. Like even to this day, there's that's one thing that like people are working on within the media, and black media groups are trying to focus on showing strong fathers, two-parent households. Because one-parent households, even they exist, of course, they work, they don't work at an optimal level. How can you be at your best for like raising a family? That is it. Having a two-parent household.
Absolutely.
Like my dad was around, but he wasn't around. Right? My dad was a producer. He was always gone, but if I needed him, he was there. When my parents got divorced, it was a completely different, night and day. So my dad was out of the house. I'm not going to put their relationship and stuff out there, but everything was different. There was no one who was putting the like laying down the law. They were just like, it was just my mom. So once that happens, there's little things start to form cracks. Cracks start breaking, and you stop having people who are actually listening to the little person in their head and start doing whatever they want. And this causes other issues. Like you wind up not having mentorship, but
opposed to I don't know. Nowadays, you have too much individualism, and so I'm only looking out for myself and my household, and it's like that on a grandized level, like from personal experience. I have a sibling that I would go down a list of things of asking what you ever really did.